let's continue our practice with a little bit more review. I'm going to put a couple of images up on the screen, and what I want you to do is use the color coding on the screen and try to determine are these same side interior, alternate interior, or corresponding angles. And so right here, the 1 and 2 are in pink, 3 and 4 are in blue. What are those? Pause it if you need more time to think about it, because spoiler alert, here comes the answer. These are alternate interior angles. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, same thing here. Look for the color coding. Sometimes students don't notice the different colors, like 4 and 5 are the same color, 1 and 7. Pause the video if you need more time. These are corresponding angles. What about these? 1 and 4, 3 and 2. These are, pause the video if you need time, same side interior angles. All right, so now we're going to get into some algebraic problems, because really all we're trying to accomplish in geometry is we're trying to turn visuals into algebra, and that's why we take algebra before we take geometry, because if we know our algebra skills, geometry then all it is, it's translating pictures into algebra. Okay, and so here's our first example, and a lot of times when students look at this, they go, what the heck, how does this relate to what we learned? Well, first thing I want you to notice is these little guys right here, those little arrows. That was the very first thing we learned. Those symbols indicate that we have parallel lines. And if we have parallel lines, then it's very likely that we have same side interior angles, alternate interior angles, or corresponding angles. Now maybe you can look at this picture right now and you can tell what it is. A lot of students can't though at first. So if you're having trouble, let's try to relate it to something that we know. What I'm going to do is I'm going to extend these lines out, and I'm going to cross this off. And notice how now that looks an awful lot like what we've been looking at so far. It looks an awful lot like what we learned. Two parallel lines, one transversal. So ask yourself, these two angles, are they on the same side or are they on different sides? Okay, well, they're both on the right side. Are they inside or outside? Well, they're both in between the parallel lines. So these are same side interior angles. Okay, great. Well, what does that mean? You may have to look back in your notes. Same side interior angles are supplementary. So that means they're going to add up to 180 degrees. So with that in mind, let's start setting up our equation. We said they would add up to equal 180 degrees. First angle is x. The next angle is x minus 26. And so there's our equation. And that is actually the hardest part of the question for most people, is figuring out how to set that up. Notice all I did was I put a plus sign in. I know they equaled 180 because they were same side interior, and we just pop in our two angles. So now let's do a little bit of algebra and solve these out. Okay, we're going to go kind of quick here. X plus x, that's 2x. We still have a minus 26. That equals 180. Let's add 26 on both sides. So we get 2x equals 206, and we divide by 2, and x equals 103. Now you always want to pause and go back to the question. Find the measure of each angle. We haven't necessarily done that yet. We found x, so x is 103, but this down here, x is 103 minus 26. So we need to actually figure out what 103 minus 26 is. And that is 77. So, sorry, that's a 0, not a 6. So let's go ask the question again. Find the measure of each angle. Did we do that? Yeah, 103 degrees, 77 degrees. This question's done. Okay, very similar here. And a lot of students at first struggle to see what's going on in this picture. And so what I would encourage you to do is when you draw this picture, actually draw a turned version of it. Okay, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make this picture so it looks like something that we've learned. And we learned this with the parallel lines being horizontal. And I'm going to use the same trick as the last one. I'm going to extend these lines so that it looks just like what we learned. Okay, and I want you to see now how even though it wasn't necessarily obvious at first, this is two parallel lines, one transversal. Now let's identify the angles. Okay, here's an angle right here. Here's an angle right there. And notice there's this arrow right here that's pointing inward. It's saying the 3x minus 5 belongs in there. And what we have to do is identify these as they are same side interior, corresponding, or alternate interior. They're on the same side. One is inside, one is outside. So these are corresponding angles, which means they are congruent. Now, congruent is just the fancy geometry way of saying they're equal. So that's what I'm going to put down first in my equation. I'm going to put down an equal sign. One angle is equal to the other angle. One of the angles is 3x minus 5. The other angle is x plus 55. So that's the setup. Again, that's probably the hardest part. Let's do some algebra steps. Plus 5 on both sides. And let's at the same time, let's do minus x on both sides. If you're uncomfortable doing two steps at once, just do one. Just do the blue or the black. Don't do both at the same time if you're uncomfortable with it. Okay, let's keep going. 3x minus 1x is 2x. Negative 5 and 5 cancel. X minus x cancels. A lot of people make the mistake here. You need to bring down the equal sign. Don't forget that. Every equation needs an equal sign, otherwise it's not an equation. And then 55 plus 5 is 60. All right, so what do we have now? Let's divide by 2, and we get x equals 30. And they ask for x, so this is done. Let's do another one. All right, let's get into the numbers. So notice right away, we've got parallel lines right here. We're looking for how many degrees in each of the angles. And so let's start looking for that. We have to identify our angle pairs. Now the thing that's going to screw a lot of people up on this is they're going to make an assumption that this line, oh, that this line and this line are parallel. Do you see any markings on this picture that say they're parallel? I don't. I see these markings right here, but I don't see markings on the horizontal segments. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to rotate this picture so the parallel lines are horizontal, just like this. And this is something you could do on a test, you could do on your assignment, just turn your paper. Okay, this is a strategy that works. And so I'm going to extend some of these lines so it looks more like what I learned in class. Oh, I need an actual pen though, excuse me just a sec. And so I'm going to extend this out here, extend that out there. Parallel lines, there's my transversal. And let's see, 85 and 1 are alternate interior, which means they're congruent. So that's 85. No calculations required. We recognize that this is on the left, that's on the right. Both of them are between the parallel lines, and so we're all good. I'm going to do something very similar over on the right side. I'm going to extend the lines out so it looks just like how we learned. Look at these now. See how they're both on the left side of this green transversal? That means they're same side interior, which means they add up to 180. So all I'm going to do, 180 minus 85, and that gives me 95 degrees. And so angle 2 is 95. That's all it is. Okay, let's do this one. I want you to think before I show you, how would you rotate this picture to make it look exactly like everything we've learned? Find the parallel lines and think about rotating it. Maybe you want to pause the video and try to draw it with the rotation. I'm going to go ahead and rotate it now. And so there it is. Wow, my computer's getting real excited. There it is. And so it's rotated. And so now what we're going to do is we're only going to look at one transversal at a time. Because notice, there's a transversal here and there's a transversal there. That gets really confusing for a lot of people. We're only going to focus on one at a time. Rather than trying to do this whole problem all at once, we're going to focus as if it is two different questions that we're trying to answer independently. And so the one that I'm going to deal with first, I'm going to highlight my parallel lines. And I have no rhyme or reason for it. I'm just going to pick one of the transversals. And here's the one I'm picking. And so what I notice right away when I do that is that what I have is this angle is 65, and I have this angle right here is angle 2. And they're both on those lines. Angle 60 is not touching this transversal. Angle 1 is not touching the transversal, so we're not looking at them. And so here I go. This angle down here, it's on the right side. This angle is on the right side, same side. They're both in between the parallel lines, so this is a same side interior situation. And so that means they have to add up to 180. So all I'm doing is 180 minus 65, and I get 115 when I do that. And that is the measurement, the number of degrees, of angle 2. Okay, so we've answered that question. And I don't need this transversal anymore. I've already used that. Thanks, little transversal. Bye. Go away now. And we're going to come back, and we are going to find the other transversal. And we're going to see what information we can get from it. So highlighting the other transversal, I'm going to find the angles that are on that one. So angle 1 is right here. I have angle 60 right here. Try to identify if those are same side, alternate, or corresponding. 1 is on the left of the transversal. 60 is on the right. And they're both interior. That means alternate interior. And so that means automatically no work needs to be done. They're congruent. So the measurement of angle 1 is 60. We're done. Okay. Try this one. I suggest that you pause the video and try this one before I show how to do it. That way you'll know how well you're understanding and what questions you maybe need to come in and ask. Okay, so this is similar to the one we did 2 ago. Okay, extend the lines, extend the lines. Oops, I missed. Let me try again. We all make mistakes. Okay, and here I go. Angle 70 and 2 are alternate interior, so that's 70. Angle 80 and angle 1, or 80 degrees and angle 1 are same side interior. It means they have to add up to 180, so this has to be 100 degrees. Then 100 plus 80 is 180. Done. Okay, try this one. In this picture, these two angles, this one right here, by the way, what does that symbol mean? Remember, that's 90 degrees. 90 degrees and this angle right here are both corresponding. That means they are equal. So we get 90 degrees equals 3p minus 6. Add 6, and you get 96 equals 3p equals 3p. And then we divide by 3. And 96 divided by 3, what is that? It's 32. Okay, so remember, the hardest part of the whole thing is this setup. Once you can get that, it's pretty easy to get the algebra skills. But we got to practice getting those setups, recognizing this is corresponding angles, which means they are congruent. Okay, I would suggest that you pause and maybe give this question a try. You're probably ready for it at this point if you've been tracking with the video well so far. So go ahead and write this down and give it a try. Okay, what we have here is alternate interior angles, and it's this angle and that angle. So what we're going to do is set up our little equation. 14 plus 3x, 14 plus 3x equals 5x minus 66. All right, and my handwriting is bad. I hope you can see it. The computer's not registering very well, but all I'm saying is these two angles are equal. And now it's algebra step time. So let's add 66 on both sides. I'm going to do 2 steps in one. So my second step is I'm going to do minus 3x minus 3x. And here we go. The 3x's cancel out. The 66's cancel out. We have 14 plus 66. Let's see, add those together. 4 plus 6 is 10. Carry the 1. Looks like we have 80 equals 2x. Divide by 2. So x equals 40.